things, you will be a good leader. The last one says, in respecting others, we respect ourselves. There's a lot of pop psychology nonsense going on right now about self-esteem. There's no such thing as self-esteem. All right? Self-esteem means that I am a C student, but you're going to give me an A so I can feel better about myself. You giving me an A doesn't make me an A student. I'm a C student masquerading as an A student. And sooner or later, I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to figure out that I'm not an A student, that I didn't get those grades. All right? I didn't earn them. You gave them to me. And so how can I possibly respect myself? I can't. That's why it's called self-esteem and not self-respect, because they know that that won't earn me self-respect. So they came up with this idea of self-esteem. We're going to make it easy for everybody. We're just going to keep lowering the bar until everybody can get over it. And then everybody will feel good because they climbed over the bar. So what? If you're just like, if everybody can do it, then how does that set you apart? What you want is not self-esteem. What you want is self-respect. Self-respect comes from working hard, from doing the best you can, and recognizing that if you made a C, hey, you made it. And if you made a C when you really should have made an A, that, self-respect is about feeling bad about that. And feeling bad is a good thing. Because we look at that and we go, I didn't do what I could have done. I did not achieve what I could have achieved. And so then we can stand up, dust ourselves off, and say, doggone it, I'm going to do better next time. And we build our self-respect. Self-respect is earned. It cannot be given from anybody. It's got to be earned. Now, one of the easiest ways to earn self-respect is to give respect to other people, whether they deserve it or not. Go work a soup kitchen. Go work with the homeless. Go work with the mentally disabled. What you will find is that these are people, in a lot of cases, especially if you work in a soup kitchen, you go out and you serve a meal to somebody at Thanksgiving. You go, here, have a great Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to you. And generally, you'll get a 4-letter response. Okay? And you go, wow, that was really nice. You turn around and you get something else. But every once in a while, every 5th or 10th or 15th person in that line, you're going to give food to, and they're going to go, thank you. And when they do, you're going to feel better about that thank you than just about anything else you've ever gotten, because you earned it. Okay, you earned it. It's yours. Okay? And what happens is your self-respect, your respect for who you are as a person grows. And the more you respect who you are, the more you can become. So give respect to people. Don't ask for respect in return. Don't demand respect in return. Earn it. Give it to people so that they can have it, and it eventually will come back to you. I promise you that. It will. And you will grow as a person. And the more self-respect you have, the more you can achieve, because the more you believe in yourself, the more honest you are with yourself, the more you understand that what is around you is a reflection of who you are inside. And so you continue to achieve, you continue to grow, you continue to be a better person. And eventually, you know what? You'll be very happy. And you'll draw into your life the people and the places and the things that help continue to make you happy. Thank you very much for taking some time to visit with me. I appreciate it.
You made a distinction between leadership and managers. How would you qualify? What are the exact distinctions between a leader and a manager? Because I think in the present day society, we tend to there's no fine line between those. I mean, you go to any corporation, you're a manager, automatically you're expected to lead the group, the team that you have.
Very true.
In what way can you distinguish between one from the other?
Well, the way that I look at it is that a manager is someone whose job is to manage a group of people. Okay, I'm using a definition to define a definition, but if you think of management, My job is to plan around a specific project or a specific activity that the organization has going on. It's to allocate resources. It is to determine who is going to be assigned to what, okay, through the allocation of your human resources in addition to your regular resources. It's accountability. It's accounting for who's going to do what and how that's going to be measured, and all of the standard things that go along with running a business. But leadership is about looking at something in not just in one part, but in the whole, looking at things in the greater scheme of things and saying, okay, here's what we're going to do today, but how does that fit with what we're going to do a year from now? See, the problem with managers as leaders is that you tend to keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. So managers don't seem to learn. And we get frustrated about that. We go, you know, why is this problem not going away? Well, the reason the problem's not going away is because you're not solving a problem. What you're focused on is a symptom. And as a manager, you tend to solve whatever is in front of you. And whatever in front of you is generally not the problem, it's the symptom. Leadership is about taking a step back away from what happens on a day in and day out basis and recognizing that in the greater scheme of things, what we're seeing may not be the problem, but a symptom of the problem. And what we need to do is get around that to where the problem is and figuring out what direction are we going to go that's going to solve the problem we have right now. If you look at military, as an example, you know, I always talk about this. The Maginot Line was built by the French. Okay, it was built along the French-German border, and the idea was to prevent the Germans from invading France. All right, it was built by managers, I guarantee you. Okay, because it only faced one way, and it assumed that the Germans were going to attack head-on. Okay, leadership is what happened on the German side, because the Germans looked at the Maginot Line and said, you know, that's going to be dangerous if we try to go at it head-on. Let's go around it. And so that's what they did. They just went around it. And guess what? The weapons all faced east. You couldn't turn them around and face them west. Nobody ever thought, well, what happens if the Germans go around and then they're inside of France? How are we going to fight them then? Well, so the answer was, well, we won't. We'll just surrender. Okay? The difference between management and leadership. Management addresses the problem in the here and now exactly as it occurs today. Leadership looks long term. Any other questions?
Could you elaborate a little bit more about how you always have a choice, no matter what?
The biggest problem that people get into is that they believe that they have painted themselves into a corner and that there's absolutely no choice but the one choice that they see in front of themselves. There are always multiple choices, all right? If for no other reason than the fact that you have a choice to do nothing. And that is a choice. A lot of people do not make decisions. They simply wait until decisions are thrust upon them. And they go, well, see, I didn't get a chance to make a decision. No, you made a decision. You made a decision to not make a decision. And that was your choice. So it's always your choice. So it's always that decision. There's always a decision to do nothing and simply let the world do whatever it's going to do to you. And far too many people have that as their default decision. And simply, you know, we in business, in school, we even talk about it. We gave it a name. We call it analysis paralysis. We say people are given so much information that they simply can't make a decision. That's nonsense. That's a cop-out. Okay, that's simply saying, I don't have the backbone or the spine, I don't have the faith in myself to make a decision, so I'm going to pretend like I'm thinking about it while the decision is made for me, and then I can throw my hands up and say, oh, it didn't work, or if it does work by some miracle, I can jump on the bandwagon and go, see, I made that decision. The reality is you didn't make the decision. So there's always that one. But beyond that, there's almost always multiple decisions, proactive decisions, that we can make. And a lot of times, the only one we see is the one that's directly in front of us. Sometimes we need to back up a little bit and take a broader view of things and think 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. If you look at chess, if you play chess, for instance, you know, I'm a horrendously bad chess player, okay? Because I'm an engineer, and I tend to think, you know, hey, it's square, so I can deal with this. But in chess, the difference between a novice and a grandmaster is that a novice can look at a chessboard, and they might see 1 or 2 or 3 moves that are possible. And they might, if they're somewhat good and somewhat fooling with it, they may see if I move there, he'll move there, then I'll move here. You know, so they'll go 3 moves out. But if you take a grandmaster at chess, they may be looking at 300, 400, 500 different possible moves on a board at any given point in time. Now, I didn't know there were 300 possible moves in the game of chess, all right? But these guys are sitting here looking and saying, okay, if Dirk moves here, then I'll move there, then he'll move there, and he'll move here, and I'll move there, and they'll move here, and then I'll take him, and he'll take me, and then we'll do this, da-da-da-da, and then 17 moves from now, I'll win the game. And you look at that and you go, wow, that's really good. That's why he wins all the time. That's why I can't beat him, because he knows how to do that. It's the same in business. It's the same in personal life. What we have to do is be able to look and say, okay, I've painted myself into a corner. I can curl up in a fetal position and wait for the world to wash over me, which is your basic do-nothing approach. I can recognize that I've painted myself into a corner and simply step on the wet paint to walk across and then have to fix all the damage that I've done, which is the obvious solution. Or I can stop for a second and think about this. Okay, what can I do? What other options are out there for me? Well, one that comes immediately to mind is that I could just sit there and wait for the paint to dry and then just walk across the floor. Okay? Or maybe I'm Batman and I can jump and grab the chandelier, swing across the floor, and land on the other side. Okay? Or there may be all kinds of different scenarios. But we have to stop and think. We have to not accept what is shown directly in front of us. We have to look beyond that and look at the things that are future focused and say, if I make this decision now, what is the ramification of that? You know, in business we talk a lot about risk and risk mitigation. And we talk a great deal about it, but very few people really understand what it is, because when they talk about risk and risk mitigation, they almost always look at the risk that is directly in front of them. Okay, the floor is wet. The paint is wet on the floor. How do I deal with this? Rather than looking at all the different ramifications that are there. So never ever settle for what is directly in front of you. Always look beyond that and play out a number of different scenarios. Get outside of the box. Look at things that you maybe never thought of. You know, is there a way to get out of this room? Could I build another door behind me and walk out? You know, what are the possibilities that are there? And that's what you want to do on those. Rami?
Doctor, where does the personality type fit into this?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Personality type A, aggressive.
Oh, okay. So where does the type A versus type B fit into this whole thing? You know, that's real interesting, because depending on who you talk to about me, okay, they'll either say that I'm a type A plus, okay, like I'm headed for the morgue and a heart attack anytime coming soon. And there are other people who know me that'll swear that I'm a type B. All right, and I think it's depending on which mood you catch me in. But it's real interesting. And I'll kind of turn the question around to you, Rami. If you talk about a type A, the first thing you have to do is define what a type A personality is. And what I've found is that there are good type A's and bad type A's, if you want to call it that. There are type A personalities who are aggressive, who are active, they're very proactive in the things that they do, they're very high energy people, but they're also very positive people. Okay, I know a lot of people that I would define as type A's, and some of the top people in this country, some of the top leaders in this country. These are people who could not be nice. If you ever met any of these people, they are the nicest people on the planet. They are nice, they are kind, they are polite, they will always take time to talk to you. If you go back and read about Andrew Carnegie, he was one of these people. Andrew Carnegie was the richest man in the world. Okay? But there was a 17-year-old kid who wanted to do a story on Andrew Carnegie, wrote for a local school newspaper, you know, and if you read the autobiography, he says, you know, I was too stupid to know better. I just went up to his house and knocked on the door and said, you know, can I talk to Mr. Carnegie? I want to interview him for the school newspaper. And the butler was like, hang on. And he went in there and got it. And Mr. Carnegie talked to him for several hours. He's the richest man in the world. Some kid comes up and knocks on his door. So there's type A personalities that are like that. That are people who, and to me, the most successful people in the world, if you look at them, you will find that they are those types of type A's. They're there to give back. They do that sixth one down there. Okay? They work really hard at giving because they know that the more they give, the more they get back. And they're not worried about how much they give because they know they're getting it back. Then you have what I consider to be bad type A's. And bad type A's are the people who are aggressive and they're proactive. They're all the things we just talked about, but they don't have the time of day for anybody. Okay? They're striving to get to the top, and their concept of getting to the top is to step on the people on the way up there. Okay? Dirk, if you and I are at the same level, the easiest way for me to get to the next level is to knock you down, step on your back, onto the next level. That's what I want to do. The problem with that type A is when they get to the top of the mountain, how many people are up there?
None.
One, just them. And guess what? You can't watch your back all the time. And so there's some other type A coming up right behind you whose job it is to knock you off and take your place. The first type A, when they get to the top, they're surrounded by people who want them to be there. So they're there, and they're surrounded by people who want them to stay there. So they have people to watch their back for them. They're not up there by themselves. The second one, they're up there by themselves. They're not going to be there very long. Get a good look at them because they're coming down. All right? These are the people who say, you know, I worked my whole life. I did all these wonderful things. Do I get any credit for it? No. Well, that's because nobody wants to give you credit. You took all your credit as you went up the hill. When you got to the top, you don't deserve any more. You used up all yours. It's the people that go to the top of the hill with the people who follow them. Now, here's the weird thing. That first group that I talked to you about that gets up there with all the people around them, a lot of people call those type Bs. And they're not. They're type As. They're type As. They're aggressive. They're pushing their way up to the top, but they're not doing it at the expense of other people. They're doing it with other people. Those are the people that I think make great leaders. Type B personalities tend to be very laid back. Okay? It's not that they're sheep. Okay? They just tend to be laid back. They tend to sit back. They tend to enjoy themselves more. They tend to not be as aggressive. They tend to let others lead. Okay? But they're there. There are a lot of leaders who are type Bs, but what they do is they lead very quietly. They lead behind the scenes. And they do the things that they need to do to make sure that those who need success, who need the spotlight, get it. And they enjoy their success because they know internally that that's what they wanted. They got their success. They're very happy with who they are. That's a great way to be. Okay? Type Bs are wonderful people because they don't have all the stress levels that type As have. They tend to live longer. They tend to not have heart attacks. They tend to not have high cholesterol. They tend to not have all the bad things we talk about. Okay? But in a lot of cases, especially if they're a good leader, they tend to experience all the success that any type A would experience. So type A's and type B's tend to be a misnomer. You really have to look very hard at somebody to figure out who they are. And I don't know, you know, it could be type C's and D's and E's in there. I don't know. But all we ever talk about are type A's and B's. Anything else? Yes, Robbie.
Where does the concept of playing it safe? For example, when you say you don't like your job, quit. You'll find something else. That's true. But sometimes, like in my case, when I try to apply these concepts in my life, it's quite hard or it's quite frightening. Where I'm type of person, like before I step forward, I need to know that I'm gonna land, meaning I try to play it safe.
Well, I don't know if that's playing it safe as much as it is being a good leader. Okay? If you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you know the opportunities and threats that are out there, to me, that's playing it safe. Taking a leap of faith, just diving out there. Okay? If I had been in New Orleans and I had left New Orleans to come to Dallas with absolutely no clue of who I was or what I was about or what I wanted to do, I would probably have looked at that and said, okay, you're insane. All right? I look at that and I look at my move to Dallas, and to me, it was a very safe move. To the people outside of me, it looked like I was crazy. But to me, it was very safe because I knew who I was. I know what I wanted to do. All right? So to me, it was a very safe move. Part of what you're referring to, though, Rami, is this idea that I talked about a little while ago about balance. Talking about leaders have balance. One of the things that you recognize as a leader, if you do these things we've talked about and you have leadership abilities, all right, and you are a good leader, one of the things you recognize is balance. And sometimes you have to be out of balance. You have to recognize that I may not have the perfect job, but I need a paycheck right now. The economy's this or this is that or whatever, and right now where I am is where I need to be. It may not be the best job in the world. It may not be what I want to do for a career, but right now I need a job. And so you do that. What you don't do is let a job define who you are. You as a leader define who you are. So your job becomes something that you do right now while you work on your career. And that's something I talk about a lot, and people always tell me, well, I have this job and I hate my job and my career sucks. Well, wait a minute. Let's define there's two different things here. What's your job and what's your career? A lot of people tell me, well, I don't know what my career is. That's okay. Right now, make it your job to figure out what your career is going to be. You know, I always tell people, what do you want to be when you grow up? I asked a guy the other day, he was 61 years old. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I hadn't figured that out yet. I went, not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. So what are you doing to figure it out? He goes, I'm working hard on it. He goes, I'm working hard on it. He goes, I've had all kinds of jobs, but I haven't quite figured out what I want to do for a career. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you understand the difference between a job and a career. And that's, you know, I always talk about that with myself. You know, I get very busy. I do a lot of things. And there are times where I get very busy and I have to be on the road. Now, I have 4 daughters. And if it was my choice, I would be on my ranch with my 4 daughters all the time. That would be my choice. But that's not possible. Okay? Not right now. And so what I have to do is I have to balance. Because in order to spend time on my ranch and keep my ranch, somebody's got to earn some money. Okay? Be realistic about this. So I have to go out and I have to earn a living. And sometimes earning a living takes precedence over my daughters. And I don't like it, but I recognize it. Okay? So when my wife comes to me and says, hey, you're spending too much time on your job, my answer is, I know. Not I know to dismiss her, but I know because I know that I'm doing that. And here's why. And I tell her, this is why I'm doing that. Because these are the things that I have to do. And it's going to last for this many weeks. And when I'm finished, then we're going to bring everything back into balance. But you understand that. It's a conscious decision on my part to do those things. And there are times where I turn things down. And I go, no, I'm not going to do that. Yes, it's going to cost me a lot of money. That's okay. Because that's not the priority at that point in time. We talked a little while ago about my daughter's 45-day period. My daughters have all 4 of their birthdays. Okay? I can guarantee you, because it's happened every year for the last 9 years, that in that 45-day period, somebody is going to want me to be somewhere else on one of their birthdays. And that is not going to happen. Because the priority there is my daughters and their birthdays, and I will be home for their birthdays. It's a commitment that I made to them. It's a commitment I made to myself, and it's something that I'm going to do. Now, do I understand that that's going to cost me money? Yes. Is that okay? Yes. I made that decision. Nobody made that decision for me. I made that decision. And so you have to work with those things. Balance is what life is about. Balancing your personal life with your professional life, balancing the time you spend with yourself versus the time you give to other people. That is what leadership is. Okay? Leadership is balancing those things. If you can balance, then you're doing fine. You balance, though. The world doesn't balance for you. You balance. If you let it, the world will eat you alive. I mean, I could very easily work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I don't, because I made a conscious decision not to. The question is, have you made that conscious decision? And have you made it in an intelligent fashion, recognizing and dealing with all the variables that are out there? All right, we have to wrap it up. Thank you again for coming in. I appreciate it. Y'all take care. Have a good day. How we do, Bart?